Hey guys, so my name's Nishant, and basically I'm just doing this thing where I get to like meet new artists and like see their experiences and stuff like that. And I wanted to start this off with like someone I met. I'm actually in Hawaii with her right now. Her name's Emili.
Hello.
And yeah, no, she makes really cool music. And so I wanted to start a blog. So yeah, that's where we're at right now.
This is what's happening. I'm very excited.
Yeah, so Emili, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hey guys, I'm Emili, Emili. You can find me on all social media at Emili Music. I am a current junior at Yale and currently in Hawaii, enrolled remotely with Nishant. So we are having a blast here, and we literally had like a little coffee date where we sat down and decided that this would be a really cool thing to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have some music on Spotify. I don't know what else to say.
You're good. Yeah, you're
That's me.
I mean, yeah, we can just like start with the normal questions, like
Yeah.
like how'd you get started with music? Like, what made you even want to do this?
Yeah. Honestly, so when I was younger, I played like violin and piano, as all like Chinese immigrant children do. And then I didn't really like it. And what happened was my parents got me my first computer when I was 9 years old. And it was like a really like crappy, like Dell, like, I don't even remember. I just remember it was like pink. It was hot pink.
Okay.
I was very excited about this computer. And every day after school, I would come back to my computer and look up lyric videos on YouTube. And I would just sing super loud in my room and just like act like nobody could hear me, but the entire house could hear me. So starting then, I just like really got into like singing lyric videos, and my parents noticed and they were like, oh, like you should take some vocal lessons. And then ever since then, that's kind of how I got started singing. Yeah.
Damn. So like what like themes like do you sing about, or like what like inspires you to make songs like right now?
So I started writing music when I was around 16, and now like most of the songs that I write, I guess like it's kind of like therapy for me. Like when I'm like frustrated or annoyed or like whenever I want to just like get something out, I feel like it's like a good way for me to kind of journal, but in a musical sense, because I think that it kind of like, I don't know, transfers emotions a little better.
Yeah.
So yeah, just like when I'm having a bad day, honestly, whenever things are going badly, I happen to write songs.
I feel like since like all this shit's been happening, like 2020's been like a bust.
Yeah.
Like so much music has been coming out.
So much.
And it's like good stuff too. Like I don't know whether like musicians like are enjoying the time now, just because they have so much time themselves. Like I know concerts aren't happening, but like I guess like yeah, what's your take on like these past couple months, like, and like how you've been making music and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I released my first songs during COVID, which was a big deal for me because I think although I've been writing since I was 16, so I'm 21 now, and since I was 16, I've been like, you know, compiling a bunch of songs, but I've never released any of them.
Yeah.
And it was because, like, one, I think I'm very much a perfectionist, and so oftentimes I'll write a song, like it for like an hour, and then like a few hours later I'm like, that was horrible, and then never release it. And I think that's just an ongoing thing for a lot of musicians, is like this like feeling of wanting to put things out, but feeling like your stuff isn't good enough yet. And so COVID kind of pushed me to release music online. And basically what happened was I wrote a song about COVID, and the whole thing, it was called When, and the song was about like, when will all this be over? Like, when will COVID be over? How are we still in quarantine? And I wrote this in March, thinking that it would be like, I really gotta release it right now because it's only gonna be relevant for a month. And here we are. So that was kind of like COVID for me has helped me release music, like push me to release it. However, I mean, obviously I miss performing, I miss jamming with people who are not with me. Like I definitely miss that a lot. But I also think that COVID has made like music just more collaborative online. Like I've been doing a lot of songwriting clubs over Zoom. I've been FaceTiming friends to write music. Like I think that we're all kind of, you know, figuring out how to do this in such a weird time. So
yeah, you mentioned like making music and like not knowing whether to release it or not. I wonder like how that plays like in online collaboration, because like when you're with a person, you guys can like, you know, talk normally, but when you're working on like Zoom or FaceTime, like how do you like decide really when a song's finished, especially when it's like multiple people online?
I think that I mean, something that I've learned, I think that texting is really hard in regards to like figuring out, you know, like release dates or figuring out whether or not you want to bring another producer in or things like that. I think that like the key is like make sure you kind of talk through things over FaceTime, like you said, over Zoom, over phone calls, and not over text, because I really think that like just in normal collaborations, not music, like just texting definitely has some like misunderstandings because you read into things. So yeah, that's a big thing, but honestly, it hasn't been as hard as I thought it would be in regards to kind of moving things online. Yeah, I think the hardest part is reaching out to people, honestly, because, you know, in person, you might like know someone who knows someone, and then you'll be like, oh, let's hang out and jam one day, you know, and then you'll start writing. But like right now, it's like that's not going to happen. You're not going to naturally meet people, right? So I think that a lot of it is like shameless DMing, like shameless, like, oh, can you like introduce me to someone and like that is definitely the hardest part of like music in COVID times.
Honestly, yeah, for me, like I think like what's so cool about music is the fact that you get to meet so many people and like just it's all like a community. You get to reach out, make connections and stuff like that. So I know you mentioned like you're like a part of Claudio, which is like I guess you can explain what Claudio is to everyone.
Yeah, so I'm a campus rep for Claudio. Claudio is basically a streaming service for college musicians. So it's really cool because it's really like focused on community and building community within musicians, specifically college musicians. So basically the streaming service has like different ways to like look through music, and you can choose like, oh, like Northeast, or like for instance, I can literally filter out musicians by which college they go to. So I can know like who on campus do I know who is making music. Like I can go and find these people. And it's just really cool because they also have like songwriting clubs. This summer I was part of a songwriting club, and basically we met weekly, we had a prompt, we had like collaboration prompts, and it was a really good way to kind of just like hold myself accountable and also meet new people. So I love Claudio and recommend, if you're a college musician with an EDU email, to go on claudio.com and sign up and meet some people.
Yeah. I mean, like, to me, it just, the concept seems so, like, simple and useful. Like, how did people, like, meet each other before, like, pre-Claudio, pre-COVID? Like, what was the deal? Like, how did that happen?
So, yeah, a lot of things were kind of just, like, friends of friends. Like, one, performing definitely helped. If you were performing at an open mic or at some other performance venue, you know, someone else in the crowd might be like, oh my god, like I have a song that I would love to work with you on, right? Because like once you're performing, people kind of notice. And that is a key part. I have reached out to multiple musicians after they've performed, you know, and like I'll be like, oh my god, you were so good, like I would love to collaborate with you, and that's kind of how things get rolling. It's still the same, honestly, with like Zoom open mics. Like those are happening more and more, although they're kind of uncomfortable.
I've been to a couple of those.
Yeah, but yeah, so like it's kind of the same thing, but I would say that it's just more natural, like in person, obviously. But yeah, right now that's like basically before COVID, that's kind of how you reached out to people. Either you saw them perform, or you knew someone who knew someone, or you like, I don't know, like went into a jam session together or something. I don't know.
And there's SoundCloud.
And yeah, exactly. You can basically go on, like for me, a lot of times I can go on like streaming services, listen to someone's music, be a big fan, and then, you know, you can DM them as well.
I'm not sure if I'm in touch with like mainstream music, but I know like especially 2-3 years ago, like Chainsmokers, like EDM was like on the rise, and maybe still might be on the rise. Yeah. Like I know like your genre is more like acoustic, so I was wondering, like, have you ever considered like, you know, transitioning into like more EDM type songs because the audience is potentially bigger? Like how does that play into you?
Yeah, I think that like for me, I'm still figuring out what my sound is, right? I think that's a big part of like my self-discovery as an artist, is like trying out different genres, trying out different collaborations, and kind of just like, you know, figuring out what I want to do. And for me, like I am definitely not tied down to like acoustic indie folk pop thing, you know? And like although that is the type of music that I'm making right now, I'm definitely not like against any other type of genre or style at all. But yeah, I think it's just like a huge like trial and error type of thing. Like I will want to write different types of songs just to see what kind of works best and what I like the most. So yeah.
I just I mean, I just think it's like tough because like you being in a certain genre, like sometimes COVID like it makes it even harder sometimes to find people. But
yeah,
I guess like having an open mind is like
huge.
What's more important.
It's huge, and also being like able and like wanting to collaborate with other people. I think that during like a pandemic, it's really easy to just like kind of go into yourself and like, you know, focus on making music alone.
Yeah.
But I still think that there's a lot to be learned from reaching out to people and to like write with people and kind of just deal with that as well, because that's just such a big part of the industry and like what we're going to do in the future as well. So
yeah. So are most of your songs like, have you written them like by yourself or with someone, or what's the difference?
Good question. I would say I probably write more about myself. However, I tend to like the songs that I write with other people more than the songs that I write alone, which is interesting. I think that, one, I also write faster when I'm writing with other people. That makes sense because it's literally basically like a bouncing board. Like I will literally have an idea, I'll get stuck, I'll throw it to the other person, they have an idea, they throw it back, and then, you know, things kind of move faster.
Yeah.
But alone, it's often like, I'll write like half a song and be like, I like this.
Yeah.
And then like, don't touch it for like a month. So like, that often happens, and then I'll be like, oh, like I love this line in this song that I wrote, and I don't want to add to it because I'm gonna ruin it. So it just ends up being like a 10-second like thing on my phone that is never touched again. And it's like, that often happens when I'm writing alone. But I mean, I definitely write more alone than with other people. Yeah.
Do you have any like advice for people who like want to get started as a musician or even like write songs? Like, yeah.
I think like what we said earlier, like having an open mind, making sure you're collaborating with people, and also like this is a really big quote that I've like always felt inspirational. I think I've mentioned it to you before, but basically I watched this video or this podcast or something where Ed Sheeran was basically like, writing music is like a rusty hose. So you have to like turn on the water, and at first all this mud and gunk is gonna come out, but eventually it's gonna be like clear water, right? And so that has always been really inspirational for me, because I think that often people get discouraged while they're writing music, like once they're starting out, because like obviously the first few songs you're gonna write are gonna be utter garbage. Like they're gonna be really bad, they're gonna be very cheesy, and you're gonna be like, wow, I have no talent, and you might just quit. And like that's the key though, is that you don't quit. Like it's supposed to be like, you gotta get it out of your system, you gotta get all those bad songs out so that eventually you can write a good song, right? And I think that's like very important, is just to continue to, one, have discipline and continue to just make music, even if it's bad. You just keep going.
Yeah, and it kind of relates to like a conversation we were having like last night about, you know, like your good songs and better songs and whether like you should release them at a particular time.
Yeah.
So like I personally believe that like if you're an upcoming artist, like, you know, you may want to wait to put out stuff just because like you want to make sure your fans are getting like the utmost quality of music when they first meet you. And I think you may have had a different opinion. Like, could you speak on like what your experience has with like putting out music and even like maybe talking about the numbers behind them?
Yeah, I think it's because music is so subjective. I think it's really hard to figure out when you're ready, you know, to like post the music that you have, or when you're good enough. Because like for me, I don't know if I'll ever be good enough for myself. Like I think that like how it works is your expectations are here, and then you improve to those expectations, and once you get to your expectations get higher again. So it's like a continuous like ladder that you're climbing, you know? And I think that for me, I totally felt what you were saying, like beforehand. Like I was always like, oh, this isn't good enough, so I'm gonna write more, and maybe eventually I'll get good enough to release music. And like I did feel a certain push during COVID to do so. However, I do think to a certain degree, you just gotta like rip the Band-Aid off, because like at some point your music is gonna be good. Like someone's gonna like it, but like you might not, and that's just fine. Like, and I think that like you're not gonna get any type of audience if you never release, right? If you never put anything out, you're not really like growing. So like for me, I've always felt like putting things out and like holding yourself accountable by putting things out has always been like a really good way to grow and like to also figure out your sound as an artist. Like for me, I've been trying to release a song a month for the past like 6 months, and the biggest part of that isn't that like, oh, these songs are masterpieces or anything like that, but rather it's just a good way for me to like make sure I'm making music and also make sure that I'm kind of trying, like slowly discovering what type of music I want to make.
Okay.
So yeah,
makes sense. And when you say like put out music, like, do you have any like? Can you give any advice to like people who are starting to put out songs, like a particular platform? Because I know you mentioned you just started using SoundCloud. Like, is there, looking back, is there a particular like route like you would want to use like to put out music, Spotify, SoundCloud, and then like, you know, other platforms?
Honestly, I just use DistroKid, which like distributes your music to all the platforms.
Okay.
And then SoundCloud, I use SoundCloud more as a way to share music with my friends before my songs are released. So I'll have it on like private or like linked or whatever it's called, where like you can send a link to someone and they can listen to it.
Yeah.
And I use SoundCloud for that more than I use it for like just general streaming. So I'll like have a song, a demo or something like that. I'll upload it onto SoundCloud, have it private, and then share it with a bunch of friends and be like, oh, what are your thoughts? What can I do to improve it, etc. So for me, I've always just used a distributor to distribute music, and then I basically make sure I upload it a month before the release date, and then during that month, I just like, it's a grind. I basically I just spend the entire month like researching playlists, like emailing playlists, emailing blogs, figuring out which blogs would be suitable for the song, all of that stuff, just like a ton of research. So that's kind of what the grind is.
Yeah, no, I recently found out about playlisting and how much of like a grind it is for artists. I was talking to your friend too about it, and like, yeah, it's tough for artists, especially like once you're trying to come up. Like, they have to like reach out to these playlisters, get them to like listen first, which is tough on its own. And if they like it, then they'll put it on their playlist. So
I email so many people. Like every time I release a song, I email like, I don't know, 200 plus.
Yeah, no, that's
which is
like
so
hard.
Disgusting. Like, and then also the shameless DMs. I like don't even. At this point, it's kind of like, well, the worst. Okay, like worst case scenario, they respond to you being like, "Stop bothering me." You know what I mean? And it's like, well, they weren't gonna put your song on the playlist anyway. So that's kind of the situation. You got to be shameless about things.
So like in a perfect world, like, how would you want your music to be discovered? Like, what is like, from like the eyes of a fan, like, how would you want them to like first like come upon like one of your songs?
That's a really interesting question. I mean, like, the ultimate goal is to get on like a editorial playlist, like a Spotify playlist, right? Like an actual Spotify playlist, and then have people like find my song through a genre that they already like. And being like, oh, whoa, I like this song. Like, you know, like, if you're listening to, like, your Discover Weekly playlist, or you're listening to, like, I don't know, like, Hang Out and Chill playlist, or whatever, like, when you're listening, you'll, like, come across songs and be like, ooh, this perked my ear, I'm gonna add it to my own playlist. Like, that's what I want, right? Is to be, like, discovered through that means, and then have people be listening to, like, hundreds of songs, and then, like, have my song, like, perk their ears, you know? And I think that would be really cool. But, yeah, so we're slowly getting there.
Okay. Would you rather have a song with 1 million listens or play a concert with 1,000 like attendees? If you had to choose one.
Play a concert with 1,000 attendees.
Okay, why?
'Cause it's the point of streams is so that I can perform. Like, that's like my joy, like what I get out of music is not knowing that there are just people online listening. It's more so that like I can like connect with them, you know? And like, although through online purposes, obviously they're like those people who are listening to my songs are still connecting to it.
Yeah.
But like just being able to like be on stage, see like the real people in front of me, like it's totally different. Like, I would rather perform in like 100-person venue than like get like, you know, like if we're like scaling down, like 100-person venue rather than like 10,000 streams or something like that. Just because performing is like the best. So, and that's what I want to do with my life, is I want to like perform, right? And so, yeah, COVID's a weird time. COVID's a weird time, so yeah.
So how long have you like professionally been like releasing music or starting to make music for again?
So I guess releasing is since March, so it's only been I don't know what month it is. Jesus, like 8 months. It's been 8 months since I started releasing music. It's been, I don't know, like 3 or 4 years since I started writing music. It's been like 6 years since I've been like professionally like performing, I guess, like gigging and things like that. So yeah, by the way, when I first met Emily, I found an article about her from Lyrical Lemonade, which I follow. I don't know, you guys probably know about them, but you should check out the post. It was really cool, so yeah. That was very cool. I emailed the Lyrical Lemonade contact info that I had. Literally, I think 10 times, maybe more. I just continually emailed, and I was like, hello, new song, hello, new song.
Like, they're big. Like, I've been following them for so long.
It was really crazy. And like, Elliot, the person who wrote the article, like literally responded to my email being like, hey, I like this one. And I was like, yeah. I was like, yes. Yeah. And then he wrote this like very, very kind article, and I was very, very happy, and it was very sweet. But yeah, so I don't know, it's just about emailing people and like being like knowing that people are busy and they won't respond, but maybe one day they will. So I think that's like a big deal. Yeah.
How's like your family like been a support system to you? Like, I wonder what it's like. You know, I don't really have a family that's like, you know, trying to make it in music and stuff, but like, what's that been like, having friends to be there for you?
Yeah, so my parents are both immigrants from China. My dad's an accountant, my mom's an engineer. It's like very, you know, like STEM-focused family. Both my siblings went to school for engineering. Like, I am just kind of like this random, like, case in my family. And I think that my parents were kind of like, oh, we don't really know what to do. They were like, I think they've always been so supportive, and I've always been surprised by how supportive they've been. And it's just like wild, because I think when I was little, like when they noticed that I loved to sing, they were like, okay, I guess it makes sense to get, you know, give her lessons or something so that she can get better. And I did that, and then they were like, oh, I guess she can do some competitions or perform or whatever she wants to do. And then, like, slowly, I think after Chinese Idol, my parents were like, oh, like, this is serious. Like, this is what she wants to do with her life. That's, like, I don't know what to do with that. And so, although my parents don't really, like, they try really hard to, like, you know, give me, like, constructive criticism on my songs. They try really hard to, like, you know, give me career advice as well. But I think it's quite out of their realm that often they just, like, want what's best for me. They'll just be like, no matter what I do, I know that they'll always kind of be behind me and like ready to like catch me if I fall, which is like so special and like something that I'm so grateful for. Because honestly, I think that like with artists, like with people going into entertainment, like without your like family support, it has to be like 10 times as hard. Because like for me, it's like I know that I have friends and family who I can lean on if I ever need anything. And that makes it so much easier for me to just go forward, you know, like fearlessly. It's the same. It's not just with family. I mean, I've got amazing friends. Like I've got, you know, my boyfriend's so supportive as well. Like I just like have a great support system that I'm so lucky to have. So
for advice time, like what would you like tell people who like are deciding, you know, are surrounded with like people who are more into like engineering, right? Like, you know, typical jobs, like, but who also really want to try like arts and like music. Like what would you say to them?
I'm trying to think of. I feel like I could say so many cliche things right now. I could say so many. I mean, obviously, it's like you only get one chance at like living. You know, like for me, it's just like I think that we're all so lucky to like be where we are. Like I am so privileged and lucky to be where I am and like be able to kind of like go for my dreams. And like, but the thing is, it's like you gotta make sure you're doing something that will like satisfy and fulfill you. Like, I think that's like the most important thing. But again, it's hard with these things because I always feel like when people are like, oh, like, go for your dreams, like, oh, like, don't, like, you know, don't just like waste your life away at a whatever job that you don't want to do. Like, I don't think it's as easy as that, because I think that often there are things that people have to think about that isn't just what, you know, is going to make them happy. Like, there are people who lean on people and like need their support and like things like that. And so I don't know, I don't think it's as easy as just being like, oh, go for your dreams. But like, I do think that that is something you don't want to dismiss. Like, when you're thinking about what you want to do with your life and what you want to pursue, like, if you know that something brings you joy, like, you should think about that, and you should like think about going for it, because it's gonna be worth it at the end. So I don't know, that's my take on it.
Yeah, honestly, that's pretty much it.
Dude, Nishant's great guy. Literally one of the best. But yeah, this is so fun. Thank you for having me. I'm excited for your other interviews as well.
Yeah, no, I'm too.
This is gonna be great. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Cool, yo.
Cool.